Welcome to the Regulars podcast, and this is a preview show for the final round of the Six Nations. We'll be looking through the teams and just talking about the permutations about who needs to do what in order to win the championship. I'm Thala. I'm joined by Shaun today. Shaun, yeah, we have a great weekend of Six Nations. We actually have, well, technically four teams that are in contention of winning the Six Nations. I'm very excited to talk about Scotland's chances of winning by 40 points with a bonus point and then hoping everyone else loses.
You'll imagine. I think it's got to be by just having a look at it now. They have to win by like over 100 points to clean up the points difference. But anyway, that would be sensational. But I'm looking forward to this. And I'm so bummed I missed the pod earlier the week. I still haven't listened to it properly. I picked up bits and pieces, but I hope I don't repeat anything.
No, we're very excited to see what we talk about. So let's go through in the order of the matches. So we'll start with Italy versus Ireland happening in Rome. That's the first game of the weekend. Ireland are still in contention for the Six Nations. The quick summary is they need England and France to lose, and obviously them winning in order to win the Six Nations. Big changes are that Ireland have put in Jack Conan at 6, and Jack Crowley is back at 10. James Lowe and Mac Hansen are back from being unfit for the last game. Gary Ringrose is back from suspension. We have Tadhg Furlong, who's also back on the bench. James Ryan's been promoted to the starting team. So, Shaun, I mean, obviously the big debate is the 10 situation. So now Crowley has the chance to hold the keys for this game. Yeah, I think the point of departure is I don't think, or at least for me, there's two things. One, I don't think Sam Prendergast played badly in the Six Nations. I think he was, if I'm going to be like critical, maybe above average. And then obviously, especially with the defense, was a big problem. And then the second thing, it's not like it was Sam Prendergast's fault that they lost to France, but obviously there was a few things that, in terms, especially defensively and with like getting the attack as close to the game line, that he could have done better. So Crowley has his chance now. This also comes in the week that there's rumors that Crowley is a target for Leicester Tigers, and there's talk about whether he should get a national contract or not. So there's a lot of hashtag discourse about the Irish 10 jersey right now, which has been a lot of fun. So what are your thoughts, Shaun? I know you're probably more on Team Crowley than Team Prendergast.
Yeah, so I think Crowley definitely phoned his agent and he's like, listen, just make some noise, make a wave, make some waves. Like, I need to get some time. I don't think he's played more than 80 minutes this whole tournament. I speak under correction, but he hasn't played a lot, and a lot of it's been at 12. I don't understand how this has come about. It's not like Ireland it's not like Crowley is Johnny Sexton and then Prendergast is the new guy coming up. They've got two tens that they literally are able to take forward for many more years to come. Add to that there was some serious history to be made this tournament. Ireland could have been the first men's team in the history of the game to win the Six Nations 3 times in a row. It was weird. I have no problem with the fact that Prendergast and Crowley are in the same 23. I have a problem with the way it happened and the processes that went, like the plans that were in place, because there was definitely opportunity for Crowley to come in the mix earlier in quite a few games. I agree. I think Prendergast is I think he's a test match fly half. He's got that. He's very young. He's playing like a guy that is exceptionally talented, that's been given an opportunity, but has a lot to learn. And they've kind of thrown him to the wolves in the way in which they've handled this whole situation. Again, it's not like they don't have another 10. And it's not like Crowley wasn't that guy last year that sent them through to winning it. It's bizarre. Prendergast has been like, he's shown bits and pieces. Defensively, he's poor. His passing is incredible. He's got a great kick variation, but he makes a fair amount of errors in a game. I I saw them talk about how like they changed Ireland's attack to more suit the Leinster style, and therefore Crowley's not in the mix. I haven't seen, like, I haven't really picked that up too much. So if that is the case, I think that's very short-sighted. Um, but I'd still feel that Jack Crowley is good enough to handle that form, to handle a different style. I mean, Jack Crowley has shown in winning the URC, in winning the Six Nations with Ireland, he's shown how to play in tight games, in wet games, in crappy games, in open games. Like, he's got it. The fact that you want to play him at 12 really means he's got it. So it's just such a bizarre thing. And they creating an unnecessary extra reason for friction between Munster fans and Leinster fans, or Leinster versus the rest of Irish rugby.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I guess if I'm sort of taking the Team Prendergast side, like what happened in the last Rugby World Cup cycle, Ireland in their biggest game could didn't feel like they could replace their incumbent number 10 because they didn't fully sort of know or trust at the time Jack Crowley as to whether he can finish a big game where Ireland was behind in order to win a must-win Six Nations game. So I think even just for that purpose, having a situation where, you know, you pretty much gave Jack Crowley the whole year except for I think the last test against Australia to start at 10. And then giving Prendergast at least, you know, the majority of the Six Nations, and we'll see obviously how it goes you know, going forward when Farrell comes back, who gets picked for the Lions, etc., etc. I don't think it's a bad situation for there to be Crowley with maybe close to 35, 40 caps with 20 odd starts, and Sam Prendergast having 15 odd starts and 20, 25 caps by the time we reach 2027. And I mean, sure, you can say that, you know, I think in terms of the game plan, I do think Ireland is trying to be able to be in a position where if the ball in hand, the high possession, you know, quick rag speed thing doesn't work for them, and I think Crowley can run it, you know, as, you know, probably better than Prendergast can because he attacks a lot flatter to the line than Sam Prendergast. Obviously still has to grow into his very gangly and tall body. If they're trying to sort of build okay, we're going to play without possession, rely on our defense, counter-attack, and all that sort of stuff. You know, with Prendergast, I think he's such a good kicker. It's something that you should be able to try and develop so that you do have that option. I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem that I know people are saying like this closed the door to Crowley for him. I don't think so. I think it's just now Ireland have two approaches they can go about with. They can try to be a bit more territorial, either, you know, depending on the half or depending on the opposition, whatever the case is. And Prendergast, I think, is top for 50-22s, I think, in the competition, or at least like near the top. And then if you need the attack to be flatter, if you need points on the board, then you can put in Jack Crowley. So I don't think that's a problem at all. I do agree with you, though, Shaun, that I think in certain matches, it should have been Crowley on for Prendergast. And I don't know if it's because Crowley wasn't having the best time with his goal kicking. I don't think Prendergast's goal kicking has been like that much better in the Six Nations. I don't know if it's just wanting to have that kicking option or just, you know, they want to make sure that Prendergast gets as much time in the saddle as possible. It's a balance of those things. But I also don't think this lost in the Six Nations. Does Crowley make a difference? I mean, Crowley is not a forward. Where Ireland got decimated on Saturday was with their forwards. Where Ireland got even, you know, tested by Wales was with their forwards as well. So, I mean, I think this is going to be interesting to see what happens with Crowley. We'll see what happens with the Lions tour. Ideally, I think for Simon Easterby, one of them gets selected so that the other one can be the first choice number 10 and have that. I think they're playing Georgia and Portugal, just have those tests without any sort of interruption. The worst case scenario for Easterby would be that both aren't selected. He still has to make this decision again. And then basically when Farrell comes back, I think when Farrell comes back in the November series of 2025, he will start basically being like, okay, this is my 23 or slash, let's say 26 players that I want to take into a World Cup and a World Cup run. And then maybe there'll be a bit more of a hierarchy set up because I think this situation is kind of similar to the why are the likes of Omani and Healy and Murray still playing? We will still kind of continue with the team that we had in 2023. We are still going to make some changes here and there. We have started introducing some of the youngsters, but probably let's say from 2025 November, it's about, okay, this is our first team. This is the approach that we want to take. This is how we're going to build momentum to 2027. So I don't think it's a bad thing. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of complications, and I was trying to make that point on Blue Sky that like I think people are being a bit too dramatic about it. How many countries in world rugby have a situation where they have two tens under 25 or 25 and under that both look like they are going to be or already are good international flyers? Because Prendergast, if we've learned nothing else, is that he's at least a pretty decent to good international flyer. And obviously he'll get better with experience. Crowley, we've learned that last year as well. I mean, he did in the Six Nations and he was, instrumental even in the Tour de South Africa. So that's a good position to have. It's now just about managing between the two of them. And yeah, also big shout out to Crowley's agent for putting that release out in the perfect week to try and maximize as much money as he can.
Yeah, like I think I totally get the succession planning. I think the way it was handled was wrong, purely because they're both able to play for longer. Like there was an opportunity, I think when Ireland lost Lowe, that puts a whole lot of extra pressure on your 10. Prendergast has had Lowe his whole season, Maybe Crowley at halftime there was still something in it. And I know it wasn't specifically the backs. Gibson Park was relatively quiet, like he was shut up during that game where he's really been dictating. So perhaps a change would have been a good thing. We'll never know. What I do think, though, I think Crowley starting at 10 this weekend is absolutely lose-lose for everyone. It's lose-lose for Crowley fans. It's lose-lose for Prendergast fans, for Munster fans, Leinster fans, and Irish fans. I really, you can just see it. Like, if Ireland lose or if Crowley plays badly, you know exactly what's going to be said. If Prendergast plays badly or Crowley takes them home in style and just looks like a natural, which he is, then you can hear the conversation. So it's going to be crazy. Next week is going to be wild in Irish Twitter.
I just hope for their sakes they don't lose, because I don't think you want a situation. I think it's a lose-lose, but if Crowley plays badly and they lose, I think it's going to be like World War III, basically, in Irish rugby Twitter. So other changes for the team. You have Jack Conan playing 6. I like this change. I think this is the loose trio of the future. I mean, okay, Conan's actually not that old. I mean, not that young. He's already 32, turning 33. But I do think this is the loose trio that will take them to, maybe throughout these next few years. And then you still have Ryan Baird that can come in, and maybe he can be a 6 in certain games when you need some more line-out fortification. Conan's been great off the bench. But, I mean, I think, yeah, Omani maybe didn't really do what I don't think he had the performance that he could have had in the France game. Any other thoughts about the Irish changes?
No, I find it quite fascinating that Conan's at flank. I think they kind of want to they don't want to give Doris a break. That's what it looks like to me. And they really need to give him a break. He has started like the longest streak of games ever. But yeah, it's a bit weird. I think what they want to do is I think they kind of want to put Italy to bed and then they can make some changes. But you've seen they don't maybe want to make those changes. It's an interesting move. I don't have a problem with it. I just really want to see Jack Conan play more because he's cooking. It's a Lions here. Of course he's in form.
That is true. On the Italy side, not too many changes. Ferrari comes into the starting team. They have Tommaso Allan at 50 instead of Ange Capozzo. I think more about the kicking game and just trying to make sure that you're as secure as possible at the back. I think Capozzo, I don't really love him as a fullback at international level. Look, I think the main thing for Italy in this game is just the performance needs to be a lot better than the France and England games. Like, the tournament was set up that they had 2 probably easier games at the start and these 3 harder games now. But Italy just needs for this to be almost like a fighting loss. Like, a bonus point would be fantastic. Obviously, win would be great. A bonus point would be fantastic. But even just a 10 to 15 points, it can't be a blowout like the last few weeks have been.
No, I agree with you. I think Capozzo, is super exciting. Italy have looked their best when Tommaso Allan's at 15 and Capozzo's on the wing. It really needs to stay like that. But I mean, they've also put Lamaro on the bench. They made a couple changes. They're definitely going to make a move in the second half. I think that they looked at what France did, even though France did it with a whole new pack. I think they've looked at that and gone, there is weakness in this Irish side if we up the tempo and put pressure on the pack in the second half. So it'd be interesting to see how that unfolds.
I kind of think Zuliani, and I missed that, so thanks for pointing it out. I don't know how I missed it. I think Zuliani, I probably just inserted Lamar at seven and
Yeah,
just sort
yeah.
of moved. But I think Zuliani actually, I kind of think it's almost the opposite. Like Zuliani is like such a rangy, dynamic flanker. Like he carries the ball well, he breaks tackles, he creates attacking opportunities. So I think they want to have that at the start and sort of maybe put pressure on Ireland like that. And then with Lamaro and Vincent is also basically this like similar player with ball in hand, and then sort of balance it out with Lamaro almost being like that tackler, that chopper that he always is. So, I mean, look, Italy's in a privileged position with their loose forwards. I mean, all five of their loose forwards are really good. You can even throw in Alessandro Ezeko as well. But so I don't mind this. Do you know who's the captain? I can't see who the captain is here.
No idea. If I really had to guess, um, no
Yeah.
clue. Oh, it's Bricks. Bricks in the
Okay.
midfield.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so let's move to the Wales-England game. England's permutation is a bit more complicated, but essentially, if France gets a bonus point win, they're out. Assuming they win, they need a win with a bonus point to give them the best chance possible, and then to hope France loses. If they get a win with a bonus point, and France also wins and gets 4 points, then it's on points difference, and then England has to basically make up an 80-point swing. So then they'd have to absolutely destroy Wales. Unfortunately for England, they're playing in Cardiff, number one, and number two, this game in the last few years, I think it's been decided by like 7 points in most of the games. And okay, we'll get to England now because there's a lot to talk about. Just quickly on Wales, like pretty much similar starting 15. They've obviously had to do a few like injury replacements. Warren Gatland called them woke during the course of the week as well. I guess the big change, which is interesting because what England's done with their loose trios, is Wainwright coming in for Rafal. I think England thought that Wales would do Rafal and Morgan, and now Wales have been like, actually, let's do a normal loose trio. So that's a bit interesting.
Yeah, we'll get onto it, but like I'm quite critical of England. Have they named this very mobile, lockless pack to counter Wales, or have they named it because it's in their best strengths? I don't know. But Wales will be targeting this. I think playing at home, it's both a positive and a negative. It's both probably more a positive for both sides that there's been no fellow week. So like it's kind of back-to-back test matches. We see sometimes when sides come back, they're a little bit scratchy. So England got to kind of open up the taps against Italy, and now they've got this one to bring it home. I don't know what Borthwick's doing. I'm really irritated by the decisions he's made. It doesn't look like it's a plan, and that's what's just doing my head in.
Yeah, I wanted to literally ask you, I wanted to say, Sean, your thoughts on the England team, because my thoughts are, huh? Like,
It's
like you said, I don't know. I mean, I've been trying to sort of find the rationale of both. Like, I've been trying to be like, okay, I can see it. And I think Hugh Griffin put it best on Blue Sky is like, if you've been like a Borthwick sort of like sympathizer and finding sort of rationale for the madness, this week's election just probably throws you out for a loop because I have no idea what they're trying to do on Saturday. And I kind of think this kind of plays against what they should be doing for Wales because I think Wales would prefer that this is a fast, loose game.
yeah, it's weird. I'm like I just look at that bench, the bench sort of loosies. So Cunningham South, he hasn't. I love him and I want him to do well. He hasn't had a great tournament. I really think should stay in there. Cunningham South definitely the guy that Borthwick is after. He did have he had an okay game against Italy, but then they got Henry Pollock on debut. He deserves it. He's incredible, but where's he looking to for help? Then the other guys, Tom Willis, in great form, but also not massively experienced in the test stage. Like there are guys that are going to be looking for assistance and they're not going to have it around them because everyone's going to be like, oh, kind of never been here before. The pressure's on, there's no one you can really look at. I think 12's a massive problem for England. I think Dingwall's come in and it's been interesting. If something happens to him, what's going to happen? I don't know. I think Daly was playing well at 15. Daly must play 15 or 13 or play at 23. In my books, it's almost like Borthwick kind of wants to have all those players on the field. We'll just play a numberless game and you can just be there. I'll just close my eyes. It's weird. Like Daly does a lot. He's excellent, but is he going to do it from wing? I don't think so. Last week they had him at 15, but he had to move because of the injury to Ollie Lawrence. So we didn't really get to see that plan. I'd like to see that plan. Like you could have, like that's the kind of continuity that we're lacking. And it's confusing. Like it's just so weird. Freeman, I'm a big fan of Freeman. I said many times before that I think that he has the potential to be a great 13. He really does. What you are missing is you're missing one of the best attacking out of the air wingers in the world, and you're missing one of your form wingers, and you're moving another into that wing and kind of a makeshift 13. This game, under these circumstances, it was not the answer, not for me. I see what he's doing, but it doesn't make sense. It's strange. It's just a bit odd and. Yeah, it's frustrating. I know I bang this drum a lot, but I think Ted Hill will solve so many problems. He's not an out and out four, but he can cover lock. He jumps for Bath. He's really fast. He can play tight. He can play loose. Twice when he's come on in the last 2 games, he's done a charge down. Like he's deceptively quick and big, even on the test stage by the looks of things. I don't know why he's not getting looked at. And my other thing is this whole 3 open side flankers. I know Ben Earl's an 8, but he plays on the flank, and I don't think it's sustainable. And you've got these guys that are all in form and they're doing so well, but I don't think this is sustainable. It's not sustainable in a way that I think if someone gets on top of that vibe, I think England will struggle to get it. Like a friend of mine talks about like the up your jumper runner, like that guy that's in your face that runs at you. He runs those unders lines. Like that's not really what those players do. Tom Curry a little bit, Ben Earl can, but those guys excel outside the 10 channel, sometimes on the trams. They don't have anyone that's going to do it. It's going to be Toje, it's going to be Chesham, it's going to be Stewart, and then they've dropped Jamie George. And yeah, the pro of it is you have Jamie George coming on at the end to play. That is the big pro because he's going to hit his jumpers. He is an 8 out of 10 player every single time he plays. Like he makes very few errors. He scrums while he does everything. But the downside of that is you don't get 60 minutes of that. Also bringing Jamie George on to start last week for his 100th and then dropping him again just doesn't taste right in my mouth.
Yeah. I think that's probably more because of how inexperienced the bench is, like you mentioned, that they need some level of like, okay, we need a senior hand that comes in if this whole team sort of, this bench comes on in the second half. And I think that's why he picked George Ford as player 23, even though I obviously don't want someone to get injured, but I really want to see what happens if Dingwall has to go off early because I don't know. I'm genuinely not sure what happens because
Finn Smith has to play 12.
Who's going to play 12?
Finn Smith. He has to.
I guess so. Yeah.
I'm looking at that and I don't know who else is going to do it. Roebuck's a big guy. Roebuck also come in from from nowhere almost. Like
Yeah,
Slate home. Just something I'm going to say. I'm sorry to interrupt you. We are
sure.
definitely going to see Elliot Daly playing at 13 and Tommy Freeman playing on the wing. We're definitely going to see that in the game. It's going to happen on both defense and attack.
Hmm. Like, yeah, I think, and especially with like the carrying thing that you mentioned, it's a really good point because Tom Willis helps with that carrying game. He's probably the only like, I guess Chesham you can say to an extent, but in sort of the England crop of forwards, he's probably the best like carrier like into the traffic and into like sort of around the fringes of the ruck. Everyone else like they're so if not like you said they do their best work out wide. So I don't like yeah. Look, I think England think this multiple open siders thing is working, and I get it to an extent because it gives them a bit more pace. I think it's kind of like the Hooper Pocock thing a few years back, where Australia didn't really have a six at the time post like Alsam and Fardy. It's like, okay, well, we have this that works. Why don't we just play these two together? And I kind of see the rationale of they have a really good crop of open side flankers. I mean, I don't think
But
it's
they
the
had an
worst idea.
eight. But they had an eight. Like
They, I,
they had a big eight. They had a traditional eight.
yeah,
Like this definitely they I can totally see how good this can be. But when you're
mm,
looking at the fact that they don't have another four, like Chesham and the props, the front
yeah,
row and the locks are going to be someone's got to pick up that load,
yeah.
and it's going to be them because like or do you have you devised a plan where like the guys like Tom Curry tightens up for the first quarter and then
Maybe.
Ben does I don't know. It's
Or maybe Genge maybe carries a lot more, or Cowan Dickey, I guess. So yeah, I think that's the problem is there are literally one or two things going against them and it becomes really crazy. But Borthwick has said during the week they want to play fast, they want to play like attacking rugby. I think they get away from most of like the things that are weaknesses for them, the line out, physicality. I think they get away with that against Wales. And they can nullify Wales' strength, at least especially with the scrum. We'll have to see defensively because I think Wales and how Matt Sheritus has set them up, if they don't have like the 40 minutes of sleep that they did against Scotland, like it'll be very interesting to now see, okay, Tommy Freeman, you're 13 now. Now you have to make decisions because, Maxwell is looping over or the wings are coming into play. And like we said a few weeks ago when they played Ireland, Wales were kind of playing like the Ireland model of like the last few years of wings popping up everywhere to be playmakers. And Joe Roberts has now been added to that, and he will also obviously play make. So
good game
I'm
last
interested to
week.
see what he go defensively.
Yeah, Joe Roberts had a good game last week. And it's all
Yeah.
fair and well if you dictate things, but the thing is, it doesn't look like England have the bodies to do plan B. That's what I think what worries me. And everyone will
Yeah.
always have a plan B. Like you can play wide, but if you can't do the basics right, then you will, you'll get unstuck.
Yeah. Maybe this is a team to try and get as many points as possible. Maybe this is just the simple maths of it.
They
But
have
we'll
to.
see. So the final game is France versus Scotland. France will know what they need to do by the time this game happens. Pretty much, if they win by a bonus point, they win it outright. And bar England doing something crazy and winning by a lot of points, they even just a win without a
Hmm.
bonus point should be enough. For Scotland, they need everyone, well, need Ireland and England to lose. They need to obviously beat France and not give them a bonus point. And then because I think they're like what 80 or 100 points behind France in terms of points difference. So obviously the more points they score, France concedes those points. So they beat France by like 40 to 50 points, basically. They should be happy. So possible, of course. The Scot To quickly talk about the Scotland team, I mean, I think the big miss for me is no Jack Dempsey, because now it's kind of like what we talked about with England. I don't know who's going to carry the ball for them.
Really. This is why we're friends. Because you get to bring up stuff like that. Like I'm unfortunately very narrow-minded in that I often bring up the same stuff over and over. But yeah, he's not even in the 23. So I
Yeah,
would assume he's injured.
hamstring injury.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hamstring
So
injury.
big loss. What I will say though is Matt Ferguson hasn't had the worst tournament. Like
No.
when he was dropped, everyone was like, "Oh," but he's been good. So they kind of need to like that needs to be there. He can't have had a fellow week. He needs to kind of hit that up plus 15%.
Yeah, look, I think Scotland's only hope is pretty much play coast to coast, try and sort of stress and test like the French defense, which hasn't, I mean, except for the Ireland game, it's had its moments. But the problem then for Scotland, even if they do try to sort of play with their back line, play out wide like they normally do, is that for France, the big additions, obviously Maxime Lucu keeps his place at nine with Dupont's injury, but then also, which probably fixes their defense a lot out wide, is that Gael Fickou's back and he comes in for Pierre-Louis Barassi, who's been concussed. France also keeps the 7-1 split. So now Noah Legarec is going to be the sole backline representative. So in some way, obviously minus the best player in the world, obviously that makes things worse. But I mean, literally making Fickou or putting in Fickou, at least defensively, solves a lot of problems or potential problems, even though, I mean, I think Mofana and Barassi were fantastic against Ireland, but Fickou's literally the last player I think Scotland would have wanted to play this weekend if they wanted to be like, okay, just give the ball to the back line, Finn, Blair, do your thing, try to find holes and try to sort of make this more of a basketball game. Because, I mean, the times that I've had success with France is when it's been like a sort of a high scoring game and a back and forth game because it plays into Scotland's strengths.
Yeah. I will say Fickou coming in now, I think they might test him a little bit. But just purely because he hasn't, you want to see how much rust is there.
Yeah.
I really feel Scotland need to be very fast and very aggressive in chasing kicks. There's a lot of risk there because you really need to be tight. But in order to force France into scrambling and to just pulling crazy shit out the hat and hopefully it doesn't work, you've got to put that back three under serious pressure. But what you also need to do is you need to be really, really tight. So there'll be moments when you can move up and be really aggressive and you can you can put that pressure on. There'll be times where you can't. Like the most important thing, excuse me for stating the obvious, is just really making sure that your line is pretty fixed. There are no gaps there. And that's what France have always done though. This French team has just really manufactured spaces because you're so scared that Bielbiaré and Penaud and Ramos and whoever, Fickou, anybody is going to take a gap that you do silly stuff, like you overshoot it, you don't cover your inside or whatever. So I think that's where the pressure point will be. The bonus is Tom Jordan really hits hard and he's fast. So that's going to be good. Like if I look at guys that aren't really sledgehammers, ironically, it's not ironic because it's ironic because he's so big, but we all know he doesn't do it. Is Duan is not really aggressive in that contact. Like I'd love to see him line someone up when they come up from taking a ball and just get smoked. Hugh Jones, neither. So they're going to really just have to just thump them like really. I mean, Blair Kinghorn doesn't even put in those like absolute showstopper tackles. So it's really about that. The bonus for Scotland is Kinghorn's in such incredible form. Hugh Jones is crazy. Like people have forgotten about him because of Tuipulotu, and now they've seen him kind of in this championship really still posting the same numbers, Jordan's kind of grown into 12. The problem is the Jordan at 12 situation. I think there's a possibility for weakness there. So that backline's a little bit risky for me. Lucu, as important as Dupont is and everything, I really like. If Dupont was that important, then France would have lost when he went off last week, but they didn't. And I'm not saying he's not important. What I'm saying is that France have managed life without him, and they didn't trust themselves the year after the World Cup. That's what it looked like. It looked like they didn't trust life without Dupont. Now they've got the ability to do it. Lucu is brilliant. Like he's absolutely sensational. I'd love to see Baptiste around there. He deserves it for me. But I can understand why Lucu's there. But Intermark, first and foremost is Romain Ntamack, and secondly is Thomas Ramos. That's the glue, and those are the decision makers that do everything for France. Absolutely everything. They will direct everybody. For people telling me that Romain Ntamack didn't have a good game last week, like, I will flat out say you have no clue what rugby's about, because he was just delivering. He was doing his thing. It was beautiful.
No. Yeah, even Cooks and I were discussing it. Like, he's probably the second, or at least in the top three most important players for France. Like, there's such a clear difference in quality when he's playing. I think for France, I mean, the game plan for France is, I think, let me say this very quickly, is that for Scotland, keep possession, like you said, contestable kicks as far as possible, and try to limit, like, the problem for Scotland is that they have that 20-minute period where they are bad, and then that's when France will obviously capitalize. Shaun, are you willing to predict anything but France winning the Six Nations at the end of this weekend?
No, France are winning it.
Yeah. I think France win it, and I think Biarri gets another 2 or 3 tries, and then he's crowned player of the tournament. Okay. I think
Easy.
let's end it.
Incredible.
Yeah. Look, it's lots of rugby to look forward to. I think this will be a great weekend of Six Nations to get your teeth set into. It's a whole Saturday. It's called Super Saturday for a reason. So be on your couch from the afternoon all the way to the end of the evening. Please follow us on our Rugby Biz podcast platforms and on social media as well to get any updates. And we will definitely have a debrief on Monday after this round of Six Nations. Bye-bye.
Bye.